Today was a rather difficult workout, and I'm really not sure if that's just because of the nature of the weights involved or if that's because of the lack of rest between today and yesterday, whereas usually I get 2 days of rest between workouts. But I got through things. It took a bit more work than I thought it would, but I was able to accomplish it, so I at least got that done. Wasn't necessarily the prettiest, especially in the block pulls later on, but getting through things I did pretty all right. The squats were they were pretty all right. The I felt a lot of strain actually. Well, not so much strain, but maybe fatigue in my right hip adductor, which is very odd. And I noticed as I was squatting that to compensate for that, my abductors were firing a lot more powerfully than normal to accommodate for the weakness in the adductor, and was forcing my knees inward as I was squatting. So I was really having to fight to utilize my adductor to counterbalance the adductors as I was squatting. And that's not something that I usually run into because I usually am not fatigued in the adductors when I'm trying to work out. But overall, I was able to utilize my glutes very well. I didn't feel like I was putting any strain or weight on my back whenever I was squatting. That was something I was kind of concerned about after my first or second set, to where I could feel that I was tired, but I knew that I could get through these sets, and I'd already started, so I just kind of got into the sunk cost fallacy of working out and decided I'm just going to go through and finish this workout. I'm already this far in, even though I really wasn't even that far into it. But I got it done. The fourth set was a little bit of a grind going into the last rep, if I remember right. So we'll kind of see how that looks. The first few felt pretty easy. I can see pretty strong reps right there. The fourth rep, a little bit of a grind, and then the fifth, I think, took me. That's one of those things that I was saying yesterday, is that how everything looks on camera is much more deceptive than in regards to how it felt in the middle of the exercise. When I was doing that set, man, I was fighting for that last rep, just trying to get that through, but it looks exactly the same as the others whenever you're looking at it in context of the rest of the workout. This fifth set, let's see, my depth is pretty good, which is good. I was kind of concerned that I might have been cheating it a little bit, given the difficulties I was feeling in terms of just relative weakness in my adductors and my overcompensation with the abductors. But everything's looking good. I think I had a little bit of a shout there to finish that one, just because I needed to give every ounce of energy that I had to get through that. And sometimes that's just kind of what it requires. The overhead press, I'm actually very impressed with myself getting through this. I know I was skeptical that whether or not I would be able to get to 110 this week. And I think I rode that high going in today of being able to crank out that 110. And I was able to do 115 for 4 sets. And I only ended up push pressing the last rep of the last set. So I'm going to do 115 again on Thursday. And with how today went, especially I'm kind of fatigued and with a little rest, I think I should be fine to do 115 for 5 sets of 5. And if I hit that, then I'll up the weights by 5 pounds for the next cycle and kind of aim for a 125 5x5 on overhead press rather than trying to jump to 130, just because I won't have been able to accomplish a 120, which is what would have been the goal for this training cycle. So overall, I'm still very happy. I was keeping track of myself, and I was making sure, for the love of God, do not push press any of these reps. This has got to be strict. Keep it nice and strict, and I'm pretty happy with the results of the first few sets. And even on the third set, I was still feeling a little bit of fatigue. You can see going into the fourth rep, and then right here on the fifth, little bit of a grind there to get that through. But I made sure that, one, I was not so much forcing, but getting that rep going. But 2, I modified my rest. Instead of doing a minute and a half between sets of overhead press like I normally do, I put it at 2 minutes just to give myself an extra 30 seconds to recover whatever ATP that I could. And I think that made a difference. So this fourth set, that first rep was a little bit of a grind. And then once I got it up, I went, okay, let's just go through it. 2, 3, 4. And then I sat here thinking through the fifth and then just got it up. I felt very accomplished for doing that. I think I had a big old grin on my face as I was walking back when I was, yeah, there it is. I was pretty happy with myself. And again, the fifth set, I may not have completed all 5 reps with a strict press, but I got the weight up. And I did it for 4 reps until I finally ended up having to break down and push press on the 5th. And I think if I had maybe just a little bit more rest, or if I had given myself a little bit longer going into the set, I could have done it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I wasn't able to. And unfortunately, I'll just have to try it again. But still, this is a lot better than what I expected to be able to do. And at least with my push presses, again, what I normally try to do is try to just break that bar off of my chest and then just push the hell out of it, from the second it's off my chest, and try to get rid of any sort of mechanical advantage I would have gained from doing the push press, just as a way to compensate for myself having to cheat the rep. Now, the block pulls did not feel pretty when I was doing these. They did not feel 100% that I was doing them with perfect form or that I was starting at good depth. And I think, again, that was a consequence of me just being fatigued. But at the end of the day, ultimately, that's an excuse to kind of accommodate a choice that I made to, hey, just let's stick to the to my consistent schedule. And right there in that first rep, my shoulders are actually in front of the bar, which is not ideal. That also may be the angle that I'm at, but it does look like I'm in front of the bar, especially in comparison to later sets from what I was kind of getting a preview whenever I was putting these together. So the second set coming in here, I believe I was a lot more upright and I wasn't leaning forward as much. But I genuinely, though, I am impressed I was able to do this. This is the heaviest I've ever repped for 5 sets of 5 on block pulls. Previously was last month. I did 365, but even before then, when I had done this last year before I hurt myself, I only ever got up to 350, if memory serves, in terms, for these block pulls. So this is a tremendous amount of growth for me to be able to accomplish this. And one of the things you can see me focusing on, not so much that rep, but just breaking the tension in this and then going through the reps. So those were a lot better. I wasn't as forward over the bar as I was in the first set, so I think I'm pretty sure I mentally took note of that. I can't remember if I watched the video or not, just to kind of play it back and see, hey, that felt weird. What was I doing? What do I need to adjust mid-workout to make sure that I'm getting the best utilization of my time in being able to accomplish all this? But I'm very happy with how these turned out. I may or may not be able to do 380 next week. That it's going to be a question mark, but I don't know if that's a question mark today because of just, again, the fatigue that I had, deciding to do back-to-back sessions, which I can do, clearly, I can get through it, but it's still difficult for me. One thing I'm actually not liking about these sets in particular is that I've got a bit of that good morning posture to where I'm not getting down a little bit lower with my hips and then using my hips and my legs to drive up alongside alongside each other instead of just utilizing one or the other. So that may be cause for concern in terms of whether I should even approach 380. But ultimately, when you're approaching a maximum weight, you are going to see form breakdown. However, the other side of that is that I'm doing these for reps to where this is clearly not a maximal weight because I'm able to rep it out. So I should have fundamentally good form. And it's not bad, but it's not perfect to what it could be. I could be a little bit lower. Well, this set's actually pretty good. I do like how this one looked. So that was not so much a good morning posture, but just good hip activation and lockout, forcing that into a lockout, which is the whole purpose of these. I might have to watch this back again after I finish going through this once and get a second opinion of what I think of how this looked with these block pulls. So this final set, each one of these sets, going into it, were kind of similar to the first one in that I walked over thinking, okay, I know I can get that first rep. Once I get that first, just use that sort of enthusiasm you get from that and just push through the next 4, be able to finish out the set of 5. So this 5th one, that one I remember being a bit of a grind to do. That took me some work. And then also too, before this, I changed my warm up patterns, and I only did a set of 8 at 135 and a set of 5 at 225, and then one final set at 315 to be able to finish out the workout or the warm up. That one, yeah, I had a bit of a yell too, just because of how tired I was. But overall, worked out very well. I'm pretty happy with how things went, and I will look forward to the next session.